Some breaking news. The small boats crisis has reached a major milestone today as more than 35,000 migrants have now crossed the Channel illegally this year alone. Now, GBNews can exclusively reveal that at least 750 migrants made the crossing from France so far on Wednesday. It's just utterly ridiculous. We'll bring you more on that as and when we have it. But let's get back to the Conservative Party conference, where Conservative Party leader Badenoch has promised to scrap stamp duty if elected into government.
I have looked at the rates you have to pay to see if we can lower them. I have decided that we can't, because that simply wouldn't be enough. Conference, the next Conservative government will abolish stamp duty on your home.
If only. Whilst addressing the Tory conference in Manchester, she also vowed to cut tax and accused other party leaders of shaking the same magic money tree. Right, let's cross over to GBNews political editor Christopher Hope, who is live at the conference in Manchester. Although, Christopher, I wanted to get your reaction on that breaking story today. 35,000 that we've reached as of today.
Yeah, that's big news. Of course, that shows, of course, that while this party is trying to work out how to convince people to support it at the next general election, life carries on. That is, according to Mark White, our colleague, of course, at GBNews, the Home and Security editor, 750 migrants made the crossing from France so far today. And, of course, it's only lunchtime on Wednesday. That means that more than 35,000 individuals have crossed the Channel illegally this year. Don't forget, we're looking at a target of possibly 50,000 this year, which will, I think, be a record. Poor weather so far in the Channel had prevented crossings since last week, when more than 2,000 arrived over several days. So while this Tory party talks about how it will tackle the small boats crisis, leave the European Convention on Human Rights, deport 150,000 illegally arrived migrants, reignite that Rwanda plan, the problem keeps coming with a relentlessness which is alarming to people in power. This party, of course, not yet in power, but I should say, having just been sat through that speech with Badenoch, it is the best speech I've heard her give. It's her first speech as Tory leader. She's spoken elsewhere. It was with conviction. She had a big surprise, which is axing stamp duty in England, costing £9 billion to try and get the housing market going, help people to get onto the housing ladder. There were other measures we knew about, ditching the Climate Change Act. She said it, didn't she, that she's not a climate change sceptic, but she's a net zero sceptic and wants to find a better way to try and decarbonise our economy. And she said, drill, baby, drill, reopen those oil and gas fields. Also other measures on scrapping business rates in for small shops and so forth. So it was a bold speech. They talked about Farage, Starmer, Corbyn and Davey, lumping all those four leaders into one, saying they would produce more government, more taxes and more debt. And in fact, I was quite struck by the fact that she only mentioned Farage once and Reform once, never saying even his full name. I think that shows this party is licking its wounds, looking in on itself. But this couldn't have happened a year ago. Had they said they were leaving the ECHR a year ago, say if Robert Jenrick had become leader, I think the party would have split. That hasn't happened. They've got behind this new policy, and that is a win. They now have the ammunition, this party, to go out and convince the country to give it another chance. But that is where they will find some heavy weather, because, of course, this party was in power for 14 years and didn't do a lot of the policies, the tough policies they're announcing today. So convincing GBNews viewers and listeners, maybe yourself, Nana, about how they can do that, that's the next challenge.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private internet access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private internet access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Well, it seems like a lot of the viewers are actually commending Kemi Badenoch on that speech and saying it was really good. But again, her major problem is that a lot of people are not prepared to forgive them. And of course, a lot of them are saying that she's taking policies directly from reform. There was one thing she said, though, Chris, that I thought was quite interesting. When she thanked all her front bench, she talked about them having the experience. And she used the word experience. And I think that was very telling. That was kind of, for me, a little snub to reform, who may have good sound bites, but not really experienced people joining.
Totally, that is the problem. They, of course, got 20 former Conservative councillors to defect to reform yesterday, but they do lack a team around Nigel Farage who have done anything in government. That is a problem as we get towards the election. Voters will say, well, could your team run a country? Nigel Farage is all too much on you. Around here in the various meetings I've been at, they've been saying reform is a one-man band. There's only one person who does anything there, and if that person wasn't there anymore for whatever reason, the party's support would collapse like a souffle. So that is the concern for Reform UK. This party does have a team of people who have run these big jobs, but again it goes back to the point of why Reform's doing so well in the polls. Trust. How can they earn the trust to be given that mandate to deliver at the next election? But I think for the first time in a year, the Tory parties are back in the game. They've got a long list of policies to try and talk about on GB News and elsewhere, and let's see if it cuts through. It was interesting, I think, in the hall, of course, and it's always never the same as how it's received elsewhere in the country, but in the hall, they absolutely loved it, and they kind of got reminded, I think, why they voted for Kemi Badenoch by a factor of 2 to 1 just over a year ago. Of course, there was issues for her on the horizon, notably letters of no confidence can go in her leadership after about 3 weeks' time from now. And then, of course, we're looking into the budget, and after that, the May local elections and the elections in Scotland and Wales, and that will be the referendum on her leadership. But right now, she's given herself a fighting chance of getting through those difficult issues.
And she also managed to make the party seem united, which, as we know, people don't vote for the divided parties. And the big problem with the Tory party was that they spent all their time arguing amongst each other. And one of the comments she made was that whilst we were all dealing with gender ideology, China were building power stations, 5 at least. And that's a point she made as well.
That's right. I mean, one of her points there about almost an attack on the planning system, which Labour would certainly share. I thought it was interesting on the issue of street safety. She said there that she wants officers not chasing tweets but chasing thieves. She would triple stop and search, freeing them from pointless paperwork. A big applause at the beginning, of course, for her support for the farmers, saying these are our backbone, these are our people. Why is this government going after them? She said, of course, she would remove VAT on private schools. We know that already, but I think it did touch a chord. She did pass the test that the party was set with this first speech as party leader, and it was welcomed. I mean, I've heard shadow cabinet ministers saying to me it's the best speech they've heard at a party conference since Margaret Thatcher. Now, of course, they would say that, wouldn't they? They want to support her, their leader, and boost her. But it really was a good speech in the hall, and it sent away the members, I think, with a spring in their step, and boy, do they need it. They are struggling in the polls on about 16 points. Reform are twice ahead on 32 points. Very interesting, the polling this weekend. I think that surprise announcement about stamp duty, Robert Jenrick, of course, former Tory leader, challenger, he wasn't told. I'm not even sure that James Cleverly was told. He wouldn't tell me when I interviewed I've been told it was held so closely with just Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor, and Kevin Badenoch knowing that announcement. That may be an issue of trust with the Shadow Cabinet. Why not tell them all when they met last Friday, or have a complete surprise? But that rabbit out of the hat moment that we always do crave for in politics, that sense of theatre, was what she delivered, and the members loved it.
All right, Christopher Hope, thank you very much.